And that's why I try to gear a lot of my talks toward executives to say, like, you should carve out bandwidth for your team to allow them to think entrepreneurial. It'll actually will not only come up with new ideas that hopefully better the company, but will increase the lifetime value of your customer, your employee, right? That's super cool. So it's beneficial to carve out that space. And I call that like your entrepreneurial garage.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Your Customer, Your Success. My guest today is Tim Hines. Tim is a fractional CMO, a global keynote speaker, a business coach, and a four-time founder focused on helping professionals accelerate growth by becoming more collaborative, innovative, and influential. He's worked at organizations like Air France, IMEX Group, Ticketmaster, and the CIA. He's the author of The Marketing Starter, How an Entrepreneurial Spirit Will Make You a More Savvy Marketer. And he is a brave podcast host. He's the host of the Marketing Starter podcast. And as you can see over his shoulder, he's a Chicago native living in Austin, Texas. I've lost count of how many Austin, Texas guests I've had. But wait, there's more. He's also a trained stand-up comedian and a licensed marriage minister. Well-rounded guy. I'm exhausted once again thinking about all the things my guests do. Tim, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much, Gary. Excited to be here and explore some ideas with you. This can be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. And I'm thrilled to have you. So we're going to talk a little bit more startup here. We're going to get a little entrepreneurial, something I'm doing in my own practice myself. And so I'm hoping to learn a few things, a few tips from you. And so let's just start it off. Instead of getting into background and things like that, you've got a very impressive background, which we just learned. Let's just talk about when you walk into a company, what's the first sign that marketing and customer reality are a little bit out of sync?
Well, are your Google reviews good enough? No, maybe that's one base metric. But I think one of the things from kind of like a CEO perspective is churn. That to me is a really important piece of the business that marketing is responsible for helping to own. Because if the customer isn't happy, or if they're not being advocated for, or if they're not getting the value from your product or service or business that you've promised to them, or if they feel forgotten or neglected or let down in any way, your business is going to suffer. And as we know, it's a lot more expensive to go out and find new customers than it is to keep the current base that you have happy. And so I think marketing has a big responsibility in assisting with churn and with attrition, and making sure that that customer base is elevated as much as it possibly can. So I think that's one thing that I always look at when I'm working with my clients.
That's great to hear from somebody who is considered a marketing specialist, because most people would say, well, gee, that's customer success's job, right? And that's what we talk about a lot about on the show. But it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. When we started talking, I said, perfect, right? Because most people, well, that's customer success's job. We don't have to really think about that. And you do a little, right? It's a little bit of everybody's job. Yes, it's customer success's job, but it's refreshing to hear somebody from the marketing end of the equation say that is really important. That is the important thing, is the retention, because you can't grow a business if you're leaking customers. And that's what I've preached from day one on the show. Sales is super important. It's great. But if you don't have that customer base, you're not going anywhere. You're just not.
Yeah, exactly. Because sales is built on, it's built on reassurance, but it's very much built on promises, right? And unless you're able to get your hand on a product and do a test drive, it's a promise. You're asking for trust, and the key is to hold that trust throughout the customer lifetime relationship, and making sure that that value is put an exclamation point on it, and at any point that you can. I think that's marketing's job, is to help support customer success. Because I talk about this in my book, that I look at marketing as kind of like a center hub to support a lot of different pieces of the organization, whether that's the exec team, the business development team, even HR, like, because there's employee brand and attracting employees to your company and retention there, but also on the customer success side, marketing can serve each one of those camps. And I think that it has a role and should be taking a seat at the table at all of those. But for your show, that one especially.
Yeah, no, that is great to hear, because that preparation, that setup is essential. And we talk about onboarding a lot. Well, the onboarding needs to have a smooth transition from the marketing and sales process. So from
Yeah.
the moment of discovery, it depends on what business you're in, of course, to the sales process, to the contracts, to the onboarding, all should be seamless. But if everyone isn't setting each other up for that success, if I just do sales, I'm just a lawyer, I'm just here to do the legal. So
Yeah.
it all breaks down and it turns to you know what. So that's what
Yes.
we've been preaching from day one. So it's great to hear that from your end,
Yep.
especially. So I mean, where I'm gonna kind of switch my thinking to just keep going with this train of thought.
Sure.
So from keeping that kind of customer focused CX lens, where does marketing sometimes trip up? Where do you see people trip up in this process and kind of increase customer effort or increase the effort internally to keep the customer happy?
Well, I think it just goes back to what you initially said. Like, it's not my job,
It's
right?
a, it's not my job. Yep.
So a lot of what I talk about in my book up here is how marketers can embrace an entrepreneurial mindset in the way that they do marketing. And one of the ways of doing that is picking up sticks everywhere and trying to do more with less and trying to help out and be, again, that internal service organization that is designed to actually help the whole company be successful. Because what marketing ultimately owns is the external voice of the business, and the external voice is communicated through a pathway through customer success. And so siloing that, saying it's not my responsibility, not being available to help, or not at least seeing the whole picture of what a communications effort, which very much is again marketing's thing, right? From messaging inception to then how that message is delivered to a given audience, whether we're trying to capture them or we've already captured them. And for your case on the CX side, it's marketing's job to be involved at some level at some point, again, to have some sort of seat at the table to understand what's going on there. And it could be as easy as, I'll help you draft that email, I'll help you craft that copy for the transition between the sales team and then the onboarding team and then the ongoing account management and customer success team. Like, what does that look like? How can marketing support that? How can we have our fingerprints on it without our hands in it, but like delivering almost enablement? You know, I've heard of sales enablement, right?
Hmm.
Enable the
Hmm.
sthink Well, customer success enablement,
Yeah.
executive enablement. Everybody needs enablement for
Hallelujah.
marketing. So, yeah,
I don't think I've ever heard customer success enablement or relationship management enablement or client service enablement. It's you're the
it's a
client team, you figure it
but
out,
it's
right?
no, yeah,
And
that's the wrong way of thinking. I think true
yep,
marketing leaders will see past that and understand that any sort of communication, even internal. How do we speak our language as a company? What is our
right.
language? What is our speak? Is it very corporate? Is it soft? Is it laid back? Well, how do we talk and what do we say to define what we do? Very, very important across all those levels from internal to external.
And in my background, in my world of investment servicing and investment management, the investment operations speak is mind blowing sometimes,
Yeah,
and it's acronym
anything in
central. Like
financial.
I mean,
Yeah.
and so people will talk, well-meaning people, but there's a lot of investment operations involved in what I do,
Mhm.
and we need to think of it in terms of the same way, operational alpha, like you do investment alpha, because that
Mhm.
adds friction and frustration to the process when the operations of the
Sure.
investments don't go well,
Yeah.
and people don't know how to talk about. They will talk about it because they've been working for the company for 20, 30 years. Well, guess what? It makes sense if you've been working with us for 20 years, but it's not going to make sense to the external audience.
No.
And so you have to learn how to talk to the external audience and
Mhm.
educate them, but speak knowledgeably without overdoing the internal,
Yeah.
you know.
This is
y-
something that I speak to in one of my keynotes that I do, and I actually just did this a few days before the recording of this show,
Yeah.
all about human communications and how we can leverage uh, our humanity in in a digital forward world. And one of those things that I say, I go through all these things that I say to cancel throughout the presentation. One of the things I say to cancel, I say, let's cancel corporate speak, because your customers who care less about your corporate speak. You have
Right.
your acronyms, you have your isms, you have all of these things that you're using internally, that are just going to detract from the conversation that you're having with the customer. Like, they're a human being. Yeah, maybe they get what they're doing or get what you're saying to a certain extent, But yeah, you can lose them quickly when doing that. So you want to make sure that you're communicating to them like a real human.
Yeah, yeah, and not only do you get the internal corporate speak, but you also get the management speak, which is, you could speak for a half hour and say absolutely nothing, if you know what I mean. With the people get up with
I
the
see it all the time.
right, especially and my favorite topic to talk about this is AI, of course. Now we all love AI on this
Ooh,
show, except we talk about the hype, and people will talk about AI and say nothing for a half hour because they don't know what the difference is between agentic AI, regular, LLMs,
sure.
this, and so they throw all this lingo out there and they have no idea what they're saying, which is why
Hmm.
I did the shows I did, especially the one on agentic AI, because I was so frustrated that I couldn't figure out what it actually is because everybody says it's something different. So, point well taken. So you work with a lot of smaller companies, right? So you're talking about think like an entrepreneur, right? And so let's talk about that a little because I'm a Babson MBA. I'm proud of my Babson heritage, and maybe I don't think like an entrepreneur a lot. And I had a guest on here who, Mark Stern, way back in the spring, he went from Big Four consulting to running his own business. And he said about thinking like an entrepreneur to him, the switch was like from corporate to being an entrepreneur was like checkers versus chess.
Sure.
And
Hmm.
it's the game board's the same, but totally different rules. What do you
Yeah.
what do you say to that?
That's a great analogy. I would use baseball versus football, but that's fine.
We
We
could talk
cover
baseball.
sports. It's
Well, we
cool.
got a bat in the background and we got a football, but
Yeah,
proceed.
perfect. See, there's our perfect analogy. I mean, yeah, it's very very different. I think the key here is understanding and setting expectations when you're kind of venturing out on your own to do your own thing. Is that it's just you, right? You don't have a support network that you don't have the funding maybe that you need, and you just got to figure it all out and do it all on your own. But then you also don't have the red tape or the bureaucracy or the corporatism that's in the way too. So I mean, it's a double edged sword. So what I try to teach and instill in people is that everybody could be an entrepreneur. Even if you're working within a larger company, you can still take some of this entrepreneurial superpower and apply it to what you do, and maybe bend the boundaries a little bit and try new things and break stuff much like an entrepreneur would to try to accelerate what you're building in your business. And hopefully in your business could be your job, your team, your project, or maybe you're an executive in the greater company. So it's always about questioning the status quo and trying to do things and to start something. Like that's what I try to teach people is that you don't have to have an Etsy store to start something. You can start something in your business that you're working for too, or you can decide to leave your company and start some. But you totally have that ability to embrace an entrepreneurial mindset even within the job that you already have.
It Yeah, and that's right. You don't have to be making candles on Etsy, but
They smell great,
um
by the way. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
do have some great providers from Etsy with some great candles. But
Sure.
seriously, it is hard though. It's not that easy in a big organization, I feel like, right? I think the bigger, this is a broad generalization. It
Sure.
could be if you have a good organization, but the bigger you get, the harder it is to be entrepreneurial and break that mold and think a little differently.
Hmm.
Now, you can if you come up with some great idea how to do something a little bit more efficiently, but a lot of times, kind of thinking different and not going with the flow might be frowned upon in a larger organization, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the organizational culture. You know,
Yep.
if you look at maybe some bigger companies that are very entrepreneurial at their core or have this yearning for innovation, I would say less. But maybe if it's, I'll give an example of a big financial company, maybe more so than like say like Apple, which is the most
Right.
valuable company in the world. But I bet you they're very entrepreneurial in the way that in
Right.
their culture, right? Because they're always trying to innovate and come up with new things. So, most valuable company in the world versus maybe another valuable company that's up in that echelon with them, but it's more of a cultural thing. And so I think it's to get kind of the entrepreneurial mindset agenda through. It's more about change management and mindset shift within a culture, and a lot of that comes from the top down. And that's why I try to gear a lot of my talks toward executives to say like, hey, you should carve out bandwidth for your team to allow them to think entrepreneurial. It'll actually will not only come up with new ideas that hopefully better the company, but will increase the lifetime value of your customer, your employee, right?
Right.
They'll want to say, because they'll say like, wow, I feel like I'm being heard. I'm trying new things. My company is emboldening me to try stuff. That's super cool. So it's beneficial to carve out that space. And I call that, you like your entrepreneurial garage, because in one of my talks where I talk about the starter mindset, I say like, okay, some of the greatest companies in the world were started from garages. You got Apple, you got HP, you've got the Michael Scott paper company, right?
Oh,
From
really?
what?
Yeah.
Well, Michael Scott from The Office, when he went in the show and started his paper company, it was in a garage. Um,
Oh, never
yeah,
mind.
right. It's a spoof. But
Oh,
so
gotcha.
many. And Michael Dell started Dell Computer in his dorm. So I guess my point with that analogy is to say like, you have your house, which is your business, and like you're going to do your normal business in your house. But if you go carve out a little space in your garage where you can tinker and invent and try new things, it's like just you can give your employees and give your culture that space to try stuff. It's actually really cool. And so, from my experience as a marketer and in the jobs that I've had working for companies, and I've worked for companies of all sizes from 20 to like 500, the companies that I found myself in, the roles that I found myself in, are ones that allow me to be very intrapreneurial, which means an entrepreneur inside.
Yeah.
And so that came from the culture of the company saying like, hey, this is a new role, this is a new initiative. Can you figure out how to make this work? And I'm always like, yeah, cool, let's do it. Right. So I'm trying to say like, hey, other organizations, you could do this too. It
Yeah.
doesn't just have to be stodgy and stiff and whatever. I think that as managers and as employees that report up, we can kind of meet in the middle and make that happen.
Yeah. I like that concept of the entrepreneur garage, because I think if that's something you could maybe do at the larger firms, because it is like I'm not trying to make fun of the large financial services firms, but they
Sure.
have to be so regimented like think of big insurance company,
I
right?
get
Because
it.
there are laws, there's
Yeah.
compliance,
Hmm.
and you're dealing with so much goddamn money. You do have to be very specific and regimented. There's
Yeah.
no real room for, hey, I'm going to try to process trades differently today because I'm an entrepreneur.
Sure. Yeah. And
So,
there are guardrails that exist in highly regulated industries. And I'm not saying like,
yep,
go break down the guardrail and say you're going to
right.
pay your bills a different way. I'm saying like, maybe it's the initiative can be whatever to anyone. It doesn't have to be something that's like completely breaking the mold of the way the business operates, but it could say like, hey, I'm going to take on this new initiative of the way that we handle recruiting.
Hmm.
Or I
Yeah,
think our website, we don't, because I know our industry stuffy, but our website doesn't have to be. Maybe I want to take on building a cooler looking, better message website, right?
mm,
Like you see this from like financial Capital One. Maybe you have a Capital One credit card. You've heard of Capital One Bank, whatever.
yeah,
What
sure.
did they do? They said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to build these cafes and we're going to welcome anyone to come in and use the cafe.
Yeah,
And oh my God, what a great marketing front, right? Because now people are coming in, they have to check in to use the space. So now we capture their information. They're grabbing coffee. They're using it as a co-working space. We took almost a Starbucks model, created that third environment or that third place or whatever
yeah,
Starbucks calls that third place. We created that too, but for a bank. And you're like, wait, what? Right? Where was there any issue with regulation on that? No, but that would be an idea of something that somebody thought of and took an entrepreneurial vision to build.
yeah. Oh, that is a good one. That is a good one. I never.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was one in the local mall. I never went in, but that is a good idea. Now they still running those? Did that
Yeah, there's
take
one
off?
here in Austin I stumbled into not too long ago.
Yeah.
And then when I was living in San Francisco, I used to go to one all the time because I was moonlighting. Moonlighting, and I'd go like on a lunch break and I'd go sit there and I would work on a startup that I was working on
Oh,
during my lunch break at work. So I'd
you
go, it
dip
was like
out
right
to
around the corner.
get off
Yeah.
the server, so to
Yeah.
speak.
I get out. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, just to create so there's no issue.
Space.
They didn't, the company could really care less, but I'm like, I'm not going to sit there and use the company computer, phone. Like,
Right.
so I went on my
Yeah, yeah.
lunch break, went over there, got on their internet, used my personal devices, made calls, did whatever I had to do for 1 hour, and then ran back and
Ran
finished the
back.
workday. Yeah.
That a boy.
Yeah.
That's interesting stuff. When now this is all great stuff. Now, do you get pushback a lot? Now, it sounds great when you first say it, but to actually implement it is a little different. And this is
Sure.
what we talk a lot about on the show. It's you talk all you want about CX and seamless experiences and have all the surveys you want or whatever, but you've got to actually implement it and really kind of do it. And
Mhm.
do you feel like there's maybe a wall or a plateau that the leaders you speak to, like, okay, it sounds great, yeah, great, Tim, but then they don't really follow through?
All the
You know
time,
what I mean? Yeah,
all the time. I
yeah,
mean, but that's with anything that you try to teach or any new system or any new mindset shift. I mean, how many speakers, how many books are written, how many things, and people go, "This is gonna be great," and then they start to do it and they give up. The only difference is, I think, what I try to teach is that the whole mantra is to not give up because that's an entrepreneurial mindset. Is like
right.
you just keep going until it is done, and then it's really never done, and then you just keep evolving, right? So, but yeah, I mean, the buck ultimately stops with the ability to change and shift mindsets within a culture, and ultimately, um, that goes to like a team cohort with a team leader, and then maybe like their director, and then maybe above and above. And obviously, the more layers are, the more difficult it's going to be. To your example of like larger companies, but going back to the example of like Apple gets this, Capital One obviously gets this. Like there are companies that I think are getting this more and more because they see the value in it. Wouldn't you rather have someone's human capital, someone's human ability to create housed within your walls, or do you want to push them out and then they're taking their great invention somewhere else?
And the
Right.
experience that you have invested with them,
Yeah. I
the
mean,
institutional
turnover is
knowledge.
not cheap. Yeah.
Turnovers,
And this is only one piece of it. I'm not saying like this is going to solve your turnover
yeah.
hopes and dreams, but it helps.
We've talked about that on the show before. The turnover, no one knows what their cost of turnover is really. Most don't. And they'll say that's a cost of doing business. And well, okay, but think about it.
Well, that is a very status quo way of thinking, isn't
It
it?
is, yeah. And believe me, my guest knocked that one out of the park when she said, "No, it's the cost of you're doing business." But
Yeah.
it is really, and especially when you have some of these firms where people have worked for 20, 30 years and they lay people off. We've talked about this before. It's just all that knowledge going out the door. It's just mind boggling to me, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. But
Yeah.
I
It's
don't want to go. I don't want to go down that road. So let's get back to kind of how you build that mindset and really push. Because I kind of asked you that first question. To ask you this one. So you do. I'm sure you do get pushback, obviously, and you do have to make sure people stick with it. But
Mhm.
um, what is like a hard truth that you've had to deliver to a leadership team where you just had to say like, hey, pay attention, you got to keep up with this? Like, have you ever really had to deliver like the hard truth and kind of
maybe
how shall we
maybe
say
too
it?
many times. Maybe too many times.
Yeah,
I
do you have anyone that you could share without naming names?
Sure. So another thing I talk about in my book is managing up, and how that's a very important piece of a entrepreneurial journey, and being able to convey your ideas clearly and effectively, but making sure that again your message is makes sense, but also pulls on the value strings of whoever you're speaking to. And so if that's an executive who's just like, well, this is the way we do it. This is what I want. This is
Mm,
you. And sometimes you got to just do what they ask and then let it blow up and be like, see, told you. We'll do it your way. That's fine. Okay. You know what? Here, this is, I mean, you hired me as an expert.
right.
You kind of plant your flag in the ground. So you hired me as an expert. I get it. This is your company. I report to you. We'll do it your way. No problem.
Mm,
And we'll do my best because I don't want it to fail. But I'm recommending against it. And then when something fails, and then you can go back and go, well, here, like, I mean, we tried it this way. Here's exactly why. But it's more of making sure that you're able to track that, to show that, to have the measurable results to speak to. And I think that's sometimes is a fallacy that marketing leaders have, is they just go, oh, it's like for branding. Oh, it's for this. And they don't necessarily have strong metrics. So we got to make sure we have strong metrics and measurement in place. But yeah, I was working for an advertising agency, and I remember the the CEO was like, we need to be doing webinars. We can get a lot of business from webinars. Like, absolutely, webinars, great tool. It's free. Let's produce these. Let's get them out. And then And then he's like, well, we need to do one for each of our segments and we need to do it every week. And I just said, we don't have the bandwidth or the time to even do that. And also, customers don't want to be emailed every single week about your weekly webinar. This is crazy. And he's like, this is the way I want to do it. I was like, okay, we'll do it. And it totally didn't work. And like, the first one and then the second one. And then all of a sudden no one was going. And he's like, why is no one going to these webinars? I was like, because we're just
Yep.
saying the same thing every week. No one cares. And then he was like, okay, you're right. I see that. And so we changed it.
Mhm.
So, sometimes we got to just try things and see, and maybe we get lucky and it did work, but in this case it didn't.
It is tough to tell the senior leader that they're wrong. It's probably not going to work, and so it's a bit of a challenge. And
Yeah.
sometimes you got to let it ride. So let's shift gears a little bit. All right. So you did mention metrics, and I do want to touch on that.
The
So you
N
talk.
word.
What's that?
The M word.
I know.
It's
So we always
scary.
like we try to throw something about metrics in here, and it's usually the CX metrics, customer success metrics. So, what kind of
Sure.
metrics do you think or prefer that marketing might think of to help a CX or customer success team, or is there anything to look out for? Even
Yeah, I mean, I think that the marketing team needs to be obsessed with CLTV, the customer lifetime value.
there you go.
Absolutely. Like you want that to increase over time. But a lot of that goes to, are we continuing to add value, new products, upsells? Like, what are all those things that we could do? Are those things then being communicated well and sold well to existing customers? So, looking at lifetime value, you want that to go up. Obviously, your retention rate, super super important. Your NPS score. I think those are some of the key ones that I look at. But there's also less tangible ones, like if we have a customer summit, is our customer summit growing? Are like, what is the sentiment when they come? Are they getting value out of it? Are our customers contributing back to the company? And when I say that, I mean, are they willing to give testimonials, take part in case studies, jump on videos? Are they making referrals over to us? And these are all things, again, all processes and programs that marketing should be helping the CS team set up. And that CX and marketing symbiote that needs to happen is then what marketing can use from the customer story side to then enable and create marketing that helps to drive new business. So literally like that chain,
Yeah.
CX doing a great job keeping customers happy, helping to capture stories, marketing, creating the stories, putting it on the website, creating enablement tools for then the business development team to say like, hey, look at how happy our customers are. Our NPS score is this. Look at what this person said in this segment. So those are all things that I think are that we should really obsess about when we're talking about building this engine to support the overall growth side of the customer experience.
Yeah. No, it's that cycle, and that's what we talked about on the previous episode. It's a loop. It's a
Nice.
continuous loop, and
Yep.
it never ends. And it's just that continuous refinement and continuous measurement and refine and go about. Whoops, excuse me, and going about that loop. So, no, that's a great answer, and it fits in beautifully with my previous guest. All right,
See,
we
I
got
knew it.
you,
That's why.
and you haven't even seen that episode yet. But all right, we got time for one more, and then we got to hit the segment. So let's try to bring it. I kind of ask like a lessons learned question a lot at the end as a closer. So you've worked with a lot of startups, you've started up companies on your own. So looking back, what's one operating principle that you rely on now that would have saved you all sorts of frustration, or could save a new founder frustration now?
Mm, that is a big question too. One thing, I mean, there's like a dozen. I'm literally working on a
I-
on a startup right now with my wife, and it's actually grown quite a bit, and it's been a fun challenge. Um, Understanding what's within your control, like because there's so many factors that are just not. So you can, and I think this is just great life advice. You
Mhm,
can only edit for, make changes to, and do the best of you can with what isn't under your command.
mhm,
Um, and if you're just able to be like that best version of the company, especially tying it back to CX and just obsessing over your customers early on, making sure that they're happy, doing everything you possibly can to roll out the red carpet to them. Because if you're launching a company, you get your first customer, it's like, oh my God, this is so amazing. And then as you start to grow and as you start to scale, it naturally, as part of the business, like your attention to them kind of like starts to wane a little bit. So how can you build in early into the systems to make sure that attention's there? And I mean, I can give an example of
Sure.
last year. I was super good at getting out like a Christmas or holiday thing, to like a little gift and a card. It's like a handmade candle thing to
Hmm.
some of our partners and customers, and we only had a handful. Super good at it. This year came around, was so slammed. I was like, "Oh my god, it's January. I didn't even send anything." I'm like, "We need to be better." Right,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
that sucks. Like, I should have totally did, but it was just so crazy, and then I was like, "The list is so long. What am I gonna do?" I asked my VA. She started looking into it, then I forgot to follow up with her, and it became a whole thing. So that I think that's something to definitely watch out for and to keep top of mind.
And we haven't set out Christmas cards. I think it's in 2 years now. Just we get so crazy just with life and work and everything.
Yep,
But no,
exactly.
but you have no, and it is a quite an involved question. I know, but it was just to get that one kind of thought from you is great because you in your book I saw you had like a list of 46 tips or something.
Tips. Yeah,
Yeah,
in the
you got
back of the
tips,
book.
and it's right there, and it's right on the book. It's in the sample. So Tim's just like it's 46 tips. And actually, we're going to be hearing about one of those tips in a moment when we hit the segments, which reminds me, it is time to move to the segments. Let's go. All right, everybody. It is time for Does It Hold Water, my favorite segment. This is when I ask our guests to be our resident expert witness for the day. I read a piece of thought leadership to them, and they are going to decide whether or not the defense case hold water or not. I'm going to do this one a little differently today because I'm going to read one of Tim's tips to you first, and then a quote, which is a little bit of a counter to it. And so it's a little bit of a twist to Does It Hold Water, but I like it. So, like I said, Tim has 46 tips out there. Here's one of Tim's tips. It says, make your management style transparent. Don't surprise your reports. Rather, set expectations early and give them tips for managing up to you,
Mhm.
which is great. I wholeheartedly agree. But then McKinsey said, I got this quote from McKinsey. You pay
Oh,
these people a lot of money, okay? You know, like seven, 800, $9,000 an hour, whatever they get. They say, but there's also a dark side to transparency.
okay.
Excessive sharing of information creates problems of information overload and can legitimize endless debate and second guessing of senior executive decisions. High levels of visibility can reduce creativity as people fear the watchful eye of their superiors, and the open sharing of information on individual performance and pay levels, often invoked as a way of promoting trust and collective responsibility, can backfire.
Mm,
What say you?
wow. And they
That's a
probably
long one.
surveyed thousands and thousands of companies, and I said, "Hey, this is my way of doing it."
I said they surveyed thousands and thousands of companies for $800 an hour or whatever it was, and came up with
Yeah.
that.
Well, I should have charged the same maybe, and we would have a as well written answer. Um, they're not wrong. I don't think that there's from that read, and I haven't referenced that because you're throwing it out
Throwing
here
it
like
at you. That, yeah, I know.
I haven't referenced that. That definitely is coming. It sounds like it's coming more from like maybe like very senior
Yeah.
level
Yep.
management thing, and where I'm coming from with it is acknowledging, yeah, like I'm not gonna, and I have people that I manage, and I'm not gonna tell them every little thing, give them every little detail that's going to possibly sway them in a direction that's going to detract from their work or worry them or whatever. And I want to make sure that they have a firm foundation for leadership. I guess more of what I was saying is like if you let people sometimes see how the sausage is made, they'll also further respect you and have
Mhm.
a better understanding of what is happening behind closed doors. Like it's more of the way I'm saying is like it's more of a my door is open and you can come in and we can hang out and I will gladly share and answer questions that you might have to the best of my ability or to what I think will enable you the best. Does that mean I'm going to tell you every little thing and sob on and lay on your couch and cry to you and go, oh no. I mean, you still have to make sure that you're doing your best to be a strong and firm leader. But when I mean being transparent, it means giving the ability to be in the right circumstances. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's wrong. Whether that's sharing pay or whatever else,
Yeah.
it again varies from company to company, culture to culture. I wouldn't say that it's a one size fits all, changes all. Like there are some companies that everybody knows what everybody makes, and that helps to sometimes motivate. But again, it depends on the culture and what works within the business. So I would say they're not wrong, just maybe up leveling or a slightly different perspective.
Yeah, no, great job. And I knew this would be a little bit of a unique one. And be honest with you, my wife said the same thing. She works for a small nonprofit, and she's leadership. She said kind of the same thing. She said, "I don't want to worry everybody with
Yeah.
everything that they
No, no,
don't
no,
need
no.
to know and need to worry about." So
Yeah.
she said, but it, to me, I read it the same way. That's a very senior level at a big company kind of thing, because I
Sure.
could definitely see at a big company the whole thing with pay levels and the individual, especially the individual performance. I raised an eyebrow at.
Yeah.
I mean, some things should remain confidential, and so I'm all for transparency. But there's certain things that have to be confidential. So
Mhm.
it's a balancing act, which is why I asked the question, because I thought that was an
Yeah.
interesting
And
one
you
when
notice
it's
when
one.
you read mine, I didn't say complete
Yeah,
and utter and absolute
yeah,
transparency. I didn't say that. I just
yeah,
said transparency, make it what you want to make it is more of kind of my approach to
yeah.
that. And it needs to make sense for you, your leadership style, and your business. But being able to give a little bit and show that you're a human to your company, to your employees, I think will win. The most human company is going to win. The less robotic, the less cold, the less frigid we are, the better we're going to be, especially in this age of where we don't even know if anything's real.
If we,
So transparency might help a little bit. They're like, is this boss real? I've never seen him. I only just see him on Slack. Maybe it's just AI talking. I don't even know.
we,
It's like, hey, I'm real. Transparency. Like, I haven't been available to you guys because my dog died last week and I've been really sad, but I'm here for you guys. And we're gonna like, oh wow, that's a human moment, right? Like when you hear human moments, it actually strengthens it. But not like my dog died. I can't do anything. I'm done. Like I'm giving up on the company. Like that's too much
yeah,
balance, like you said. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, totally. And we got, I don't know how many, 40 minutes into this without saying AI. So it took us 40 minutes to
There you
to
go.
say the dreaded two AI words. But um, no, that is great. That's why I asked the question. 'Cause I just wanted to kind of get that
Yeah.
discussion and debate going. And I thought that was just a neat tip in there, and they were all great. So that was a fun one. All right,
Thanks.
great job on that. Thank you. And let's move to chip shots. Okay, everybody, it's time for chip shots. These are our shorter form questions, more personal, but still yet professional. We always ask the book question. Tim, what is one book that has significantly influenced you, professional or personal life, and how did it impact you?
Mine. No, I'm just kidding.
The marketing starter. The
Yeah,
marketing starter.
the marketing starter. Well, I do a lot of speaking, and working on that side of my business. I read this book last year called The Referable Speaker by Michael Port. I found it monumental to that side of the business. I really, really enjoyed it. Um, I'll throw on another one, Simon Sinek's Start with Why. Almost cliche to say, but I loved that book. I loved it, and it just ties so much into some personal beliefs. So that one is a solid one if you guys haven't read it.
Yeah, no, I have I've got a few people recommend it, and you hear it so much that I have started it. I have the audiobook and I keep
Yeah,
going and
it's great.
I get so many good book recommendations from my guests and things. It's like I got like 5, 6 books going at a time, and I tend not to finish them. And got to get that
New Year's
entrepreneurial
resolution.
spirit. I can't finish the damn books when I get them. So no, good one, great, thank you. And this whole speaker thing is very interesting. So I think that I have talked to a lot of people recently that are interested in that. So that is very helpful recommendation. And there's a lot of people in the CX world and people I talk to that are into the speaking scene and circuit, and
Sure.
interesting stuff. Okay. All right. So the leader questions, the other one I ask all the time now. I just think this is super interesting to see what people think. If you could spend the day shadowing a current real leader, a professional in any industry, who would it be and what would you hope to learn?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I don't know if I have a specific one. I mean, if I could go back and just shadow Steve Jobs for before he died, I think that would be really cool because again, like how did he go about facilitating this culture of innovation and leading to being building the most profitable company in the world? That's just wild to me.
The,
I don't even actually use any Apple products.
oh, really?
No, not I don't no. I have a Google phone. No, I don't. Not a fan, but I respect what they've built and how they did that, and just think he was just a very he's a quasi genius and just had a
Yeah.
really really interesting way about him to build something coming from like this creative engineer background and be able to transition that into leading a company and building something like that. I think is just fascinating.
I'm talking about garage entrepreneurship. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, I mean, we're not really talking overnight success here. It was a kind of overnight, but not really, right? They had some really, um,
it's the stories always are overnight, but they're not
right,
overnight.
20
There's
20
no such
years to
thing.
get be an overnight
Yeah,
success. But in the
yeah.
90s, they were showing it was all Microsoft and everything, and
Mhm.
their DOA, the stock was DOA, and so it really is a quite a fascinating story. Absolutely. So that is a great
Yeah.
one. I will give you the pass there on someone that's close enough to being in a
I should
current
say
leader.
someone living or past. Yeah.
Yeah, we've had Henry Ford,
Yeah.
but
Oh, yeah, yeah,
it's all good. It's all good.
yeah.
It's all
Yeah. You can have it any color you want, except it's gotta just be black. Oh, okay.
that's right.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's go with. Now, I've asked you this, and I'm going to ask it anyway because we've touched on it. But this is one of the more effective one I asked. Is there a particular experience or failure early in your career that taught you a valuable lesson that you still use today?
The illusion of security in
Mm,
anything, related to career-wise, there's no such thing as
yeah,
job security, even in some of these big
yep.
companies. You mentioned, layoffs, before. I've been laid off 6 times in my career, and I talk about it diligently in my book.
Really?
Uh,
Oh boy, sorry to hear
yeah,
that.
I
Jeez.
picked marketing in tech, bad move. So that, and so if I could go back and teach a younger Tim, uh, like late 20s Tim, like, hey, before you decide to move to California and take some tech jobs and just work in marketing, uh, realize this. So that would maybe be something I would change, but it's also led to some great stories and also given me opportunities of where I am today to be working for myself and doing the coaching and the consulting and the speaking and building other companies and book writing. And so it
It
you are what you make of your past, but
you
that would be one. So I've learned a lot from that.
Yeah, no, exactly. No, perfect. Because I have felt the wrath of the layoff multiple times, and
Yeah,
you've just got to make the most of it. But it is a very important thing, I think, to teach younger adults who are working. But you're not indispensable, even I was kind of a hot shot. I got my MBA. I'm looking at my diploma, and I look at me. I'm with honors, and then boom, and it was like, are
yeah.
you kidding? You're laying me off, like me,
With my MBA,
with my
mhm.
MBA.
Yeah.
I'm so
I
good
never
at
got
it.
one, by the way. I never pursued it because I kind of went down the route of like experience and punching above my weight and getting what I need and then
Mm,
and being able to leverage that. Outweighed it in my mind. Not saying anything's wrong with getting an MBA. Obviously, people get them all the time. They're
yeah,
fantastic to have, um, but you and I, victim, same way.
right.
You just decided to spend more money on the front end.
Yeah, but and a hell of a lot more
So,
time.
like,
Yeah, not having fun in the roaring 90s.
that's
But
all right.
it
That's all right.
was but that's my point, is that you think, well, it's not going to happen to me, kind of thing. Oh, it's going to happen at some point if you're around long enough and working for large enough organizations. So you
Yep.
just have to prepare that mindset with folks. And I'll be certainly, my kids are a little too young to start talking about that stuff, but helping them along the way with that. All right,
Sure.
one more. This is a new one. I think this is a fun one. Is there one question you can always ask a customer or client that never fails to reveal something new?
Well, I think this just ties into understanding your customer and communicating the value that you could potentially bring to them. And it's just, what is the problem? What's your problem?
Hmm.
Why are you here? How can we help you? Uh, that to me, it like is the number one discovery question, because once you just get people talking with that kind of open ended question, what is the problem you're experiencing? What is the biggest thing that's in the way of your growth, or of X thing in whatever sector that you might be in? That to me is the most powerful question you could ask to figure out what your customer actually needs. And then once you're able to figure out what their problem is, because you're in the business of solving their problem, not providing a product to them.
Right.
So what is the problem? It's that whole, you've heard that analogy of what is a what does a customer need when they're looking at a wall and they need to go to the hardware store and they buy a drill bit. They go and they buy a drill bit to then drill into the wall. Are they shopping for a drill bit? No, they could give two craps about the bit. They want the hole that the drill bit makes. They don't want the bit. The
Mm,
bit is just the method to get there. So are you in the drill bit business or are you in the hole business? You're in the whole business. That's the problem the customer has. The customer needs the whole, not the bit, right?
not
So
the
I always ask, what is the actual problem? That to me is will open open your mind once you figure out the problem, and then that ties into the whole Simon Sinek start with why. That's the purpose
yeah.
of why you exist.
That is a great response and a great analogy. It's so simple and so obvious. Like, wow, great job.
Yeah. So sometimes people are just like, we do this, we can do that. It's like, well, you didn't even ask me what my problem is.
Right, right.
So
But have you seen our new product?
well, you have.
Powered by AI.
It's great.
It's um, all right. Tim Hines, great guest. Thank you so much for
Thank
being here
you.
today. Please let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. Actually, on every pretty much social media platform is TN Hines. And also my website is tnhines.com.
Awesome. Tim, thanks for being here again. Thank you all for watching Your Customer Success, listening in. If you're listening in the audio, please check out the YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget there's the audio. Thank you so much. That's all for today. Bye for now. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We hope you found something insightful that will enhance your experiences and drive your success. If you enjoyed the episode, please leave a review and share your thoughts to help us improve the show. Don't forget to head on over to maracxhub.com for more ways to connect with me and learn more about experience management. Until next time, I'm Gary Mara, working hard for your customer and your success.